to resident. So shaping place-based conditions of economic life. City obviously providing core services, infrastructure, managing land use, public spaces, implementing the general plan, shaping affordability, access, livability, and then specifically, OER established under the city charter to coordinate economic response and recovery, align city plans, programs, and investments, coordinate with the state, federal government, and other partners, overseeing small business and economic improvement initiatives, and supporting priority sectors such as ag, tourism, innovation, and technology, and so on. This idea that OER is an integrator and a steward, not a replacement for other departments, other agencies, other organizations. So again, just wanted to check in, like, are we thinking about this the right way, or does any of this feel out of place? Anything missing?
I just had a question, and because I always get the state, everything is about a state and not something that the city does. But if we're going to promote real change, shouldn't we also be able to communicate with the state and just make those, even though it's not our purview, right?
I think this, not being in a silo and coordinating with state and federal partners for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
This is the commission.oer, but actually, no, sorry, it is OER.
We are all OER.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, we confuse the two sometimes, but one thing that stood out to me when I started and why I wanted to join and why I'm still here is that, well, this being recorded, right? OER gets stuff done.
Yeah. And
that's because of the pandemic. They had to. So there needs to be some reflection in here somewhere that is a secret sauce of OER. To me, in my mind, they take action. They are entrepreneurial. I don't know if I want to say they're risk takers, but I mean, it strikes me that they have an entrepreneurial mindset. Mm-hmm. So they play by the rules, but they don't take no for an answer as much as maybe other groups. So to me, it's very unusual for a city or state to have a department like that, but it's because that's in their DNA. And to me, that's the secret sauce that's going to make it work. Mm-hmm. Anything that they undertake.
I think that's great. I think it's super important too for when we talk about the approach, how OER does its work. And that being, I think we're going to find a way to get this thing done, whatever the issue. Any other thoughts? I want to keep us. This is something we can revisit, but want to keep us moving. Any other super question? Yeah.
How you have OER as an integrator and steward? How do you see OER as a steward?
I mean, I think that it could be a particular initiative that isn't just OER. It sort of involves other parties and being a steward of the relationships and trying to move the whole thing forward. It could be a steward of kind of the city's role in a particular issue. Yeah, I mean, I think I was thinking more of like a feeling than a specific role. If that makes sense. Yeah. Good question. Okay. Again, this because I'm going to be reaching out to the commissioners one-on-one, staff one-on-one. We can dig more into any of these issues. So I'm going to move us to quickly, when we're working on this plan and this strategic framework, what is it and what isn't it? Because I think that getting a little clearer on that is really important. So, what is it meant to do? And right now, I'm using the term framework. I mean, I think the original draft that I got says strategic framework. And also, I mean, the level that we're at right now, I'm trying to keep it at the sort of strategy and objective level and not get too much into the detailed implementation of anything. Of course, this plan will get more into implementation and specific initiatives and actions that are going to be taken, and it's more than a framework, but I'm loosely using the word framework to describe what we're working on. So establishing a shared vision for OER's work and the commission's role in shaping a 5-year strategic plan. I think one of my early questions to Amy and Deb was, is this plan different from the commission's plan? Is it the same thing? And what we're trying to work towards is a shared 5-year strategic framework. Again, I think this question that came up about oversight versus advisory. I think, you know, there are lots of different forms of oversight. In my work with 501c3s, you know, a key role of a board, really a legal responsibility, is to ensure that an organization has a strategy and is following it. And I think that that's something where the commission and OER being on the same page about what the strategies are and how we're going about it actually will be a form of oversight. It's shared accountability. The commission will have roles in that. The staff will have roles in that, and you can hold each other accountable. Clarifying why revitalization is needed and what the city is working to achieve. So that goes to the conversation we were just having. Grounding OER's work in the city's role as a service provider, steward of public resources, and a convener. So again, staying true to what the city does, and OER being that aligner and convener and coordinator. Clarifying roles and accountability between OER, the commission, and other partners. Providing strategic direction while keeping flexibility to respond to changing conditions. So I actually think this AI discussion is a really good example of that. We may not in this plan have specific initiatives related to AI yet, but hopefully the strategies will be good placeholders as things come up. You'll be able to be clear about how do we fit an AI initiative into serving some of the strategies that we're pursuing. As well as, I think what Amy was mentioning in terms of the city charter, there are the 8 domains that OER is supposed to be focused on. You're not focusing on all of them yet. And like, I think that's totally fine. You're 4 years into your existence. And so we can have a plan that is clear. It is intentionally flexible to allow OER to continue growing into these different domains and responding to community need. And then setting the stage for a performance framework with KPIs and metrics that will be attached to the plan. So yeah, we're not talking about the KPIs today, but that is definitely a part of what we're going to be doing together. It really is going to be a focus of the March meeting. So when we're going through this, you'll think, oh, this is real general. Yes, and we'll get more specific, and there will be KPIs and so on. Just quickly what it is not, and then if you guys have any questions. This is not a detailed implementation plan. I think even once we add the KPIs, it's important to allow you to have flexibility. Also accountability to, are you doing what you're saying you're going to do, and how do we know it's working? But to have a level of remove from the day-to-day actions of implementing this, so that you have flexibility, and so that it's more of a, like the word durability keeps coming to mind for me, that it's not something that a year from now is going to be irrelevant because you were so specific and you've changed course. You want it to be more durable than that. So not a list of every program, project, or activity OER is involved in. It's not a budget document or funding allocation, although of course, hopefully it will help in your budgeting and seeking funding. It's not a replacement for SEDS, or, you know, I dug into that massive SEDS implementation matrix. Obviously that's relevant, but this isn't a replacement for it. It's refining how OER is actually implementing that. Yeah, not a finalized set of performance targets or KPIs. Not assigning sole responsibility for all of this, including these goals, to OER. A lot of them will involve lots of partners. And it's not intended to limit flexibility or lock in decisions prematurely. Now that I'm reading that out loud, there's a lot of redundancy in there, but I think you get the point. So any questions or additional thoughts for this. It's important because as we're working on it, we'll probably refer back to it like, remember, this isn't that, we're sticking to, you know, this level. Okay, nothing feels totally off base. Yeah,
Just an observation.
Yeah.
On number 4, not a replacement for the Oahu SEDS or replication of the SEDS implementation matrix. I mean, there is no one stewarding that.
stewarding the implementation. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
It's not happening.
Huh.
Coordination role.
Maybe, or OEDB doesn't have anything to do.
Just saying.
Possibility.
Yeah, well, and I mean, the SEDS is so massive, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's like, it. I can't imagine that OER would be in a position to steward the implementation of all 8 million of the pieces of it, right? But being clear on the ones that do relate to the strategies that you're working on and you know, there were some examples in the draft framework of where that's already happened.
Something to think about.
Yeah, it's an important point. I spent a lot of time as I was looking at the sets thinking, what is this? Who created it and how is it being used?
So it is important because it is what we have to align all of our federal economic development requests to. If we're asking for money, we have to say it's here in the sense where this is
Yeah.
aligned. So
Okay.
it does have that role.
Okay. I'm gonna gloss over this next piece because it gets us to the strategic goals. Essentially, there was the draft framework that I think Deb and others on staff worked on to kind of aggregate all the, this has not been an office that lacks strategy or has, you know, not been clear on direction. It's just that it lived in lots of different places. And so Deb and staff took a crack at kind of pulling all that together as a starting point that we would be refining and further developing. And so just because I guess it was just 2 weeks ago that we started this endeavor, I dove in and didn't want to just, once I dove in, I thought I don't want to start exactly there. I want to try to move the ball forward before I met with you guys. And so I tried to, the current draft has a lot related to indicators and metrics and program implementation. And I wanted to take it up to, or distill what was in the draft framework that speaks to the higher level strategy. And so that's where I wanted to start. So what you have here in terms of the 5 goals that we'll go through at least briefly, is all, at least if I was successful, it is all in there in the current draft. It's just reframing, and there were, I think, 6 or 7 goals in the draft. I've distilled it down to 5, but that's basically, and we'll circulate the PDF so you can read this more carefully. But I wanted you to have some context for the kind of jump cut for how we went from the draft that was in the meeting materials to these draft strategic goals. All right, can we jump to the, okay. Everybody with me so far?
You're gonna come over.
I'm gonna, yeah, switching sides now, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry to all of you.
Hey, Josh, can you just tell us, Josh.
Not a slide guy, so,
Josh,
yes, sir.
can you just tell me and Olin which chart you're pointing to and referencing when you're talking to it?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, these ones, yeah.
They have.
So what we're gonna start with Peony now is the mission, vision and approach line. Okay, so. Yeah. Folks other than staff have seen the draft that you guys did of mission, vision, and approach, or?
I think we should see it.
Shared it here,
Yeah.
okay,
But
okay.
I think it's been a while.
Okay, so, yeah, so hopefully just a refresher, but also, we'll pause and see whether there's any high level thoughts people have, but basically, I mean, this is essentially, the mission is verbatim, so I think of the mission as, why we exist, our purpose, right? So every person prospers. OER exists to build a strong economy that improves quality of life for every community, small business, and Ohana on whole. Vision, what does success look like? We're wildly successful implementing this mission. What will it look like? All of this was in the draft. I tweaked it a little bit in terms of organization. So what it looks like is a strong economy defined by the quality of life it creates, where residents can afford to live, work, and stay. Small businesses are resilient and able to adapt and grow. Communities have access to good jobs and healthy, locally produced food. And economic activity strengthens community well-being, cultural vitality, and environmental sustainability. And then the piece that so many organizations neglect is, what is our approach to and our unique approach to implementing our mission to work towards the vision. OER advances economic revitalization by stewarding the local conditions that allow economic activity to translate into quality of life. OER does this by being proactive, transparent, and innovative, using data and lived experience to inform decisions, working side by side with communities and businesses, coordinating across city departments and external partners, including state and federal, leveraging city, state, and federal philanthropic and private funds to do this work, and deliver place-based, to resources to deliver place-based solutions. Familiar? Anything seem out of whack to you? Any thoughts come to mind where it's like, what about this other thing?
Are these things that bend still, or is?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I would just comment that there's just the mission statement. There's some small businesses that maybe we don't want to see prosper.
Mhm.
And I know, I get the intention of that, but there are certain businesses that are not great for Hawaii. That are running operations that are not healthy for our communities. And maybe those are the types of businesses that we want to.
I think that idea of like it being clear who are our partners and who are not, because of whatever shared values or alignment strategically is super important. So thanks for that. Yeah, Keone, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it all looks familiar, but I'm just wondering if our vision and mission might be slightly inverted. In the sense like the mission statement reads more like a vision statement to me. It's aspirational, it's big, right? The mission statements typically are something that is more operational, action oriented, and kind of like role defining. So it comes up in the bottom part in the approach, like the coordinating and working with community. Like, so more of the how we do the work stuff feels more mission and needs to could potentially be synthesized.
Yep. Okay, cool. And Olu had asked, is this stuff that can still be amended? I think the answer is absolutely. That's part of this process. So those are all great comments. Any others before we jump to the strategies?
It's a lot,
Yeah.
In what sense?
of things we have to accomplish. So maybe we're already doing a lot of those things already, but we want to make sure we succeed, right? At whatever we're aspiring to do. So just want to bear that in mind as we go through this, you know, and if we can't do it all, let's take it off.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I assume we're gonna be evaluated by this again down the road. Like, how much of this did you actually do, right? So. I just want to share, Guy Kawasaki believes in mantras, not business plans. And his idea is when you get up in the morning, what do you say you do? What makes you go to work? Kind of the joy part of it. You know, so all of this should lead to some mantra that when Amy gets up in the morning, she says, today I'm gonna do X.
Every
This is
person
what I do.
prospers.
Yeah.
That's our mantra.
Every person prospers. Like Ross says, we save lives. It's pretty specific. So anyway, we don't need to get into.
Google will
stuff,
still
but-
be evil until it was.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it's a great point.
Maybe has a comment.
Yoni, yes,
It's on the chat.
the mission should be, yeah. Mission should more clearly describe what OER actually does to move us toward that future. Yep. Cool. Thanks, Yoni. Okay, neglected to bring my phone, probably on it, probably half an hour, right?
Yep.
So there are 5 goals. We're not gonna discuss them all in depth, obviously. I think what I wanna do is first, they all are written sort of in the same pattern, so I can go through one of them and then each one mimics the same pattern. So I at least wanna think about them at really the blue and green parts of each of them are the most important for our discussion today, just to start to think about them and react and set up future discussions that we're gonna have individually and as a group. But basically what I did was took the goal, which these goals are all essentially in use currently. There's, for example, I don't know what you all call it, but that circle with the pie pieces and
Internal.
it's been internal, but these I think are the headings, and I thought they worked really well and aligned really well with in the current draft of the framework, the core strategic objectives or whatever they were. In any event, the goal, I kind of wrote a goal statement to explain the goal. Just some examples of what the objectives may include. This was just meant to get the discussion started. But the objectives being, you know, more tangible, achievable pieces that it will help to move towards the goal. And then these bottom, the purple, brown, and black. So sorry, Keone, I think you're following me. Now I'm looking at strategic goal 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I took in the current draft of the strategic framework, there were some examples of SED's alignment for each of the strategic goals. I think it's important that it feels like they're just examples right now. I mean, I think once we get clear on what the strategic goals are, there may be a lot more parts of the SEDs that fit under them and that are relevant to OER's work. So I wasn't clear yet. I mean, these were all mentioned in the current draft, but it wasn't clear, like, are these the only ones from the SEDs that we're thinking about, or are there others? So I was thinking about them as examples of alignment with the SEDs of these strategic goals.
So can I just
Yeah,
comment
please,
on
yeah.
that for the whole thing when people are thinking about it? So in these areas, these were where the program managers felt like they created or were maintaining and developing work specific to those goals and objectives.
Yeah.
In the sets. And so they are where we have been and where the program managers thought their work was going.
Mhm.
But again, with the commission's input, if this feels off or not aligned with the greater universe in which we exist, there's 25 pages of
Yeah.
these SEDS goals and objectives. And so I think we'd be happy to reconsider them, make them 5 each or 2 each.
Yeah.
Whatever people feel is appropriate in this type of document, but they, that is the reason that they were selected. I
Yeah,
hope that's helpful.
that's super helpful, and I think, you know, we can also. In the draft document that will go around next, we can link to so that, because each of these obviously has a lot of explanation that goes with it and would be helpful, I think, to cross-reference. In terms of alignment, how it relates to programming and implementation.
So, sorry.
Yeah.
So in the report, in the resolution rather, there are the 8 things that we have to do, and there's arguably 4 that we haven't touched on, maybe 3. But does everybody know what those are, so that, I'm highlighting it because I think that these don't necessarily address all of those key things.
Right.
And so I think we need to keep that in mind, because I think all of this is great, but if we're still not addressing the 8 things.
You want me to say it 8 real quick?
Yeah.
So healthcare, sustainable ag, regenerative tourism, green energy and transportation, innovation and technology, housing and redevelopment, resilient infrastructure, and film and entertainment.
So I don't think it's physically possible. We all get that.
I agree,
I think we prioritize.
but
We have to do,
it's in the resolution. And I'm just saying that if I'm the city.
or does what we have to do have to fit in 8? So that's the everything.
Yeah, it has to fit in the 8, right? So I'm just saying, if I'm a city council member, that's what I'm asking, but you aren't doing anything for film.
Okay, so I'll read you real quick the language that I'm trying out.
Sure.
So as a relatively new office shaped initially by pandemic response and recovery, OER has intentionally focused its early work on a subset of these domains where immediate needs, available resources, and partnership readiness aligned. This strategic framework reflects, obviously this is all draft, I was just trying stuff out. Reflects OER's current areas of focus while remaining intentionally flexible. It's designed to support thoughtful evolution over time, including the potential expansion, refinement, or rebalancing of focus areas as conditions change, capacity grows, and community priorities emerge. Something like that, you know what I mean? Like, because you're right, there's no, how could you do it all at once?
Yeah.
But I mean, in theory, maybe once you have 100 people and you're coordinating with way more organizations and agencies, but yeah, it can't be done like all at once.
Yeah, and maybe that's what I'm saying is we have to have a staggered plan to address all 8.
It's a 5-year plan.
The other thing that the commission can do is propose that the language that's in the charter is not really on the note.
Yeah.
And that we, as a commission, think this was a great first draft. It's not in terms of what we as the commission think is the role for economic revitalization in the city, et cetera. We think it's different, and so however you would want to see that in the strategic plan, maybe there's amendments to the charter that need to follow, or the plan over the 5 years gets to 6 of the 8, but not all 8. And because unless you increase the capacity of OER by staffing or by monetary, it's not going to happen. So I think those are things that have to be considered as this document is drafted.
Right.
You have, that's a big role in my view to determine this.
I wonder if it's worth calling it out though, in whatever our document is, like we recognize our charter is these 8 things. And given the limits, constraints of staffing and funding, the recommendation of the commission is that for this next 5 years, we focus on the following. So yeah, like, I don't know if we've never get to vote there, I'm not sure how we.
Right.
Then it acknowledges, we're saying, these are the we don't have unlimited resources. So with that, we are saying we should focus in these.
And if the auditor's point is, I need a document that tells me what you're gonna do, so I can score keep and say how you did it.
Yeah.
Then I would say if we just make it, having the eights like impossible to audit, we should just make it what we actually intend to do.
Yeah.
And then they can check our work.
Well, and I think there's an opportunity, you know, when I think about these current, the way the 5 goals are drafted currently, of course, they may change, but all 8 of the things can fit under these. They don't yet, but within the 5 years, if some opportunity comes up that does align with who we are and is in healthcare, and you'll be able to fit it under one of these goals. It's, you know, when you get down to the more granular level of implementation and current programs and so on, then it doesn't include healthcare, but that's where the flexibility can come into the plan. But I agree, like, it shouldn't be, the plan should be clear about how it relates to the 8 domains. I think it would be unwise to ignore,
Maybe perhaps, you know, highlight what has been initiated already, you know.
Yeah.
Then we can just plug it in under each of the 8, and then we can see, you know, really because it's just a start.
and
But you're saying clear, meaning we could say we're not addressing healthcare. That'd be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
That's clear. We don't
but
have to.
may in the future. Yeah, under a new mayor and a new director, but at some point.
New commissioners.
They just threw the kitchen sink in.
Right.
Looking at.
Oh, exactly,
And
exactly.
so,
Yeah, I mean, it was before the thing was created. It was
right,
created.
so we should, you know,
Yeah.
revisit it and we do what we do well.
There's also, there's not just the sectors or the domains, the economic sectors, but there is work that says like reinvestment, small business support. There's 5 of those. Also. So,
Which is, we sort of touch base on some of that. Well,
yeah, so. And I don't know, it said like we do 3 of the 5 of those.
Yoni has a stuff though.
Yoni,
Yeah, I just want to name, I think we're having 2 conversations in parallel. One is about sector prioritization and the other is about our role clarity. And so like, even if we don't actively lead or do something in all 8 sectors at once, our coordination role or that role clarity, the coordination role could still cut across all of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wonder if we can clarify if we're narrowing sectors or if we're narrowing what our coordination role is within those sectors and why we're prioritizing ones over the others.
So if you look in.
I don't want to amend the thing if we don't have to.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And we, in discussing this, propose like, that's up to you guys to decide, number 1. But I also wanted to clarify too, so these are like the sectors exist under these 5 or whatever they are responsibilities, which are oversee, coordinate, and direct the city's economic response and recovery. Josh, you had that somewhere over here. And align with state efforts and capture funding. Oversee, coordinate, and direct development and preparation, implementation of plans related to economic development and industry and equity. Oversee, coordinate, direct communications, blah, blah,
I
blah.
don't see why they think we're an oversight agency.
Yeah.
The word overseas in every sentence.
Wait,
So
is that us or is that?
this is for OER.
Yeah.
No,
I would
mean,
say probably for all you.
yes, this is for all of us.
Collectively,
Oversee,
yeah.
coordinate, and direct a resource hub. And then oversee, coordinate, and direct economic support for areas, but not limited to, and then it has those 8 sectors. So this is, what I'm telling you is the work. The sectors are like, these are the areas that you're supposed to be doing all these overseeing, coordinating, directing.
I
And
think the reality, though, there is no way that this can be done without without getting the state involved, making directives that the state, this is where the state needs to come in. You know, maybe we take, instead of saying, well, that's the state's purview, maybe we say, state needs to participate in this action in order for it to make any real change, because really, we're gonna come up with roadblocks everywhere.
Or we set the scope of work that's a lot more narrow and, you know, in areas that we have more direct control over.
Yes.
And I think we still need to mention where the state needs to jump in, because without that, it's never gonna happen.
If you could rewrite that document, would you change the word oversee to facilitate? Like, I feel like we're a
I mean,
facilitator and a,
Who wouldn't redo the whole thing?
Yeah.
Right.
The way the thing is written now,
but oversight sounds like they gotta ask us permission and we're gonna get them to staff and really nobody. Or we have authority to tell no one anything.
right, but if you read the charter, the language about the commission's plan, which part of why I think it's important for us to be clear, like, we're gonna come up with a plan, you guys are gonna share it, it's gonna be a shared plan. But the charter language makes it sound like you're supposed to have a plan that basically directs all city efforts related to economic revitalization. So
With
it's,
fairy dust and everything else, right?
and that's why, to your point, Tony, and that's why it's silly, because it's like, you can't tell other agencies what to do.
Those sectors, those.
You just belt it out, brother.
Yeah.
I mean,
Those sectors only apply to OER, not the commission. If you look at the commission language, it's narrower. So I think that we can weigh in on those things, I suppose, but
That's what you're doing the plan for us.
what says we do a plan relating to equitable and sustainable economic advancement, development of new business initiatives and direct investment. It doesn't list all 8 sectors under our, work. So we could take a narrow view of our part within OER.
I think I see what you mean. Keone, go ahead.
I actually think that language, the oversee, coordinate, and direct, is kind of helpful. Because it suggests that our primary responsibility and accountability isn't that we directly intervene or operate in all of those sectors at once, but more so that we're ensuring alignment and coherence across them. So like, how do we help reduce fragmentation and making sure efforts across all of those sectors are moving in a coherent direction? So like, that's a coordination function, right? And a coordination role. So, I don't think we have to change the charter. I think we're just going to have to interpret it with more clarity and discipline.
Absolutely.
I think that's really, really helpful for this framework, in the sense that when I'm reading the goals, when I'm reading the whole thing right now, it just seems a bit overly broad.
Yeah.
And I think being able to identify, like, this is our operational scope, this is like our impact scope, and like where those two things meet. And being able to tailor some of these goals down to that level. Like when I look at like goal number 1, strengthen economic conditions, like that could mean almost anything. Obviously there's a little bit of context there, but it's still very, very broad. So like, what does that mean as it relates directly to the operational scope and the impact that this officer is responsible for?
I think that is spot on. And I think that's the opportunity in front of us is to refine these goals. Yeah, even within the broader context of the charter. Any other just comments about big picture? Oh, let me just say one more thing about, I think you guys kind of picked it up, but we got SEDS alignment, then sort of the program alignment in terms of the buckets of programs that OER, how OER categorizes them, right? Small business, sustainable ag, community equity. And then I added another layer of detail with examples of current programs that OER is running that fit within each of the goals. Some of them cut across goals, but for example, the Stations of Abundance program, growing and selling local food at rail stations, good food water transit, construction mitigation funds.
It would be helpful to have an understanding of where progress is being assessed. Because like some of these things, like going back to strengthening economic conditions, like that requires a giant economic study, maybe to identify like if you're making progress at that scale. But is there a specific level that we should be measuring progress at that's more relevant to the this office and what we're expected to report out to the to the county council. Not sure.
Yeah,
what level
yeah,
of
curious what's your reaction and stuff. I mean, yeah, not even me, put you on the spot, just if there's,
Me?
yeah,
I mean. I think when we say strengthen economic conditions, it's already, you know, sort of the caveat with community well-being, environmental stewardship, and long-term resilience. And then what are the areas there that we actually have programs and activity that can impact those things? And then within those programs, that's how we define impact is.
Right, so I mean, like, I guess what I'm saying is like environmental stewardship, there's a million ways that you could measure impact on environmental stewardship. You know, at what level are we picking ones that are gonna be most relevant to the programs? And is there a certain sector within that broad thing that we want to be more focused on? Like those are the key measurables, because I guess I'm worried because the scope is so broad that we're setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves. And you know, when you go to the city council, they're gonna be like, you're gonna have these grand, you know, expectations of grandeur here. But if you can say like, this is very specific, narrow scope of what we're trying to accomplish, and here's the metrics that we're trying to measure to assess that progress, then it'll be a little bit easier for us to redirect to the focus, rather than give them that opportunity to just kind of keep throwing random things out there that could be relevant, but might just not be.
Yeah, I think there's a gap between what both of you are saying. Olu, I think I get where you're going with it, but I think it's one unrealistic for us to be able to do that kind of measurement. And that's kind of the big picture, long-term impact kind of goal,
That's what I'm
like
saying, it's unrealistic.
metric.
Measurements are
Right.
unrealistic.
But what Amy just said was more about our like the programs, right? So, you know, in this kind of strategic planning process, it's what Amy's talking about is outputs. And we've done a really good job at talking about outputs in our report, like and our reports and stuff. But I think where we could go is to what are the outcomes? Like what are the more medium level outcomes that we expect to see through all of our activities? I think those are going to be sufficient from a audit perspective, or at least like accountability perspective, that those if we getting these outcomes, you can start to see the connectivity to achieving this goal.
I think we're saying something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where, I mean, that's where the objectives. The objectives need to narrow the goal so that then it's really clear why you're doing the programs you're doing. And then you will have KPIs for how to measure whether you're achieving the objective, which is in service to the by definition, bigger, broader goal. Not to say that they should stay this broad, but I think by definition, they'll be broader than you could accomplish with only the programs that you're doing. But the programs that you're doing will be very much in service to working towards that.
Right. So I think it's like two ways where we have the gap right now, which is people looking at OER, not understanding the big picture stuff that we're trying to do, and only seeing like to Sue's program, she's working in workforce development, but I have no idea how this makes sense with anything. Like, what is OER trying to do more broadly? Is it just this workforce thing? And then the same for Sue to see in her program, how it advances the overall strategy. Where is her program, place, and role and all of that? We're lacking that right now.
Yeah. And then communicating it out, right,
Yeah.
to the broader public so that they understand as well, both what OER is, what it is, what its role is, and what it's doing. This will be a framework that can, not this yet, but what we're creating, will be in service to that. All right, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, we're not gonna go further on refining the goals right now. But I think you get where they are, right? So, I mean, this is all just to tee up further discussion. Can I segue to next steps, and then we'll wrap up, and maybe Greg will even be done early. Because there's still 11 minutes. Okay.
Next steps.
So Keone and Nolan, we're gonna be looking at the one that says next steps. So, okay, so it is February and thank you, by the way, for yeah, bearing with me. I literally just, like, I didn't even know anything about OER, except that Amy and Deb worked here until a week and a half ago, so. I feel like I'm making good progress here, right?
And that was enough to get you to submit an RFP.
I mean, that gives you a little insight to just how crazy I am. Yeah, I was just intrigued enough to want to work with this particular group. So it's February, between now and the March meeting, which I guess is now the 31st, right? Thank you again for that, because I don't get home from a trip till the 25th, so the 24th wasn't gonna work. We're gonna synthesize the feedback today. It was really helpful. We're gonna integrate that into what is already, you know, a refined draft from the draft that you got in the meeting materials. And then I'm gonna be doing one-on-one outreach to staff and commissioners. And I'll double check with Amy and Deb, who can double check with the lawyers if that's necessary. But I think I'm allowed to send you a draft as long as it's one-on-one, and then we can talk about stuff. Yeah, that doesn't violate anything. So you'll get a draft, assuming that that is allowed. As well as a PDF of these charts and stuff, just, you know, just as background material. So that we can both continue to refine goals and all the other framing pieces, but also hopefully we'll be moving towards getting down to the level of starting to put together draft performance metrics and so on, so that by the time we come back to the March meeting, we'll be able to both revisit where the goals are and objectives, but also get into the performance measurement and reporting, review the proposed indicators and reporting approach, because I think it's important to not just know what the metrics are, but you know, are you going to hear about it at every meeting? Is it going to be a report once a year? Who all does it get reported to and when? And confirming alignment with SEDS and city charter and so on. Then between the March meeting and the May meeting, we'll incorporate all that feedback. We'll finalize the framework and performance metrics. I called it a performance appendix because I think my vision right now is I think it would be helpful to keep the strategy and then the implementation and reporting kind of together but separate. So it doesn't get too bogged down in the details. It's clear, here's our strategy. Here's how we're implementing and how we're reporting. But anyway, that's just my current thinking. We would have a near final document that would get circulated with meeting materials for the May meeting. And then the hope is that at the May meeting, it'll be kind of a final review and hopefully approval, as well as between March and May, I'll be working with the comms team to be putting together the communication strategy and some of the collateral material for how OER reports out to the public, not just about the plan, what the strategy is and how performance is doing, but just what OER is and how it fits out in the world and why it's important. Questions about next steps? It is a lot. I mean,
Don't worry, we're gonna figure out AI right.
yeah.
That's just half of our agenda for the next 3 meetings.
Well, thank you. Thanks for this is a good kickoff and hopefully sets up our next conversations really well. All right,
Thank you, Josh.
it's 1:54.
Okay, so we're gonna adjourn, but really quick, just want to say thank you everyone for being so engaged in the conversation and being so involved and passionate. Josh, for being patient, and motion to adjourn. Favorite? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Josh. 5 minutes early, Grace.
I'm sorry.
5 minutes early.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I'm